or just to kind of retcon half of the series to try and make it all fit together in some mishmash that eventually collapses on itself, FNAF. I just know for a fact that whenever the full game eventually drops, that not only am I going to be playing it right when it happens, I'm going to be replaying the other 2 chapters, and I'm probably going to cry. Toby Fox, please destroy my heart again, please. I need to feel something again. Feel something again. Feel something again. Feel something again. Feel something again.
You sly dog. You got me monologuing. In case you've been living underneath a rock, chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune, my most anticipated game of the year, dropped back in June. And it came in just the nick of time to save me from the overwhelming, crushing despair of reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram, and my motivation is fleeting. I'm not waiting until December to talk to you guys about how much I love this game. But before we begin, I want to just make 3 things clear right off the bat. First things first, I recorded the audio for this a few weeks ago, maybe 2, I don't know. And I might have been channeling my inner Asgore, just a little bit. I was not drunk off of 7 ice cold beers. I did have 2. I wasn't drinking more, just so we're clear. But if my audio sounds a little bit more unhinged than usual, that's why. If that makes you uncomfortable, feel free to jump ship. But you can skip to this time code if you just want to hear my final thoughts on the game when I'm completely sober. Second off, this character, Chris Dreamer, their pronouns are they, them. This is not up for debate. I have been through it with Frisk. I've been through it with Chara. I have been through it with Napstablook. I'm not going to tolerate any nonsense with Chris. Chris's pronouns are they, them. Do not make me tap the sign. If you mess up once in the comments, I get it. I will gently correct you, and I will ask you to edit it. If you feel so inclined to argue with me beyond that point, or with anyone else in the comments, just try and test me, bitch! And the third thing is that this video is going to contain spoilers not only for all of Undertale, but everything in Deltarune up until Chapter 4, specifically regarding the pacifist route. If you have not gotten to the ending of Chapter 4, go explore that for yourselves. It's highly worth it. And then come back to this video. Wait a second, Tiny Leaf, what about the Snowgrave route? Are you going to talk about the Snowgrave route at all? That depends. Do you want me to be depressed for another month? No? Then I'm not going to talk about it. I never played the genocide route in Undertale because it really bummed me out, and I'm not going to do it for the Snowgrave route either. There are plenty of other people who would love to dissect it. I'm just not going to do that. But with all of that out of the way, Mike, cue the title screen! Chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune are great continuations of the previous chapters, though for very different reasons. Chapter 3 is a spiritual successor of my favorite segment of Undertale, but it's taken to the next level. And Chapter 4 reminded me that Toby Fox is not afraid to kill children. Chris is such a fun take on the silent protagonist trope, and they repeatedly prove to be more than just a Frisk 2.0. Their personality is intentionally obscured for narrative reasons, but it's always a pleasure to see their true personality shine through in little moments sprinkled throughout the chapters. We get so many Chris moments in these 2 chapters, and I just love this little freak. Jesus fucking Christ, though, they make me so sad. I need to let the kid be happy, please. I need them to be happy, Toby. I've been a Susie lover since day 1, and the development she's gotten during these chapters has made me love her even more. Since she has so much more agency than Chris, I'm more inclined to view her as the actual hero of the story, but I'm beginning to suspect that may be intentional. And Toby, if she dies, I'm going to call the police! I may have been suspicious of Rousey's intentions for most of the game up until now, but I'm a big girl, I can admit I was wrong. The vulnerability he showed in these 2 chapters struck a chord with me, so I'm now a part of the Rousey Protection Squad, and Toby, I will kill you! Part of me does miss having Noelle as a party member, but her time in the light world cemented my love for this awkward little reindeer girl. I'm optimistic that she's going to play a more significant role in the Dark World during future chapters, and I pray that she makes it out of here okay. Toby, this is my bitch. He got the biggest laughs out of me, as he often does. I respect the restraint to keep him out of the main plot of Chapter 4 for atmosphere's sake, but I really hope we see him again. Long live Lesser Dad. Goat Mom, Goat Dad, I love you both very much. But you two need to get your shit together!
Toby, what the fuck?
I'm not feral about Tenna, but that's not because of anything he did in specific. Whoever came after the Queen was going to be fighting an uphill battle. Still, I love Tenna. He's equal parts entertaining and sympathetic, and his design is perfect. However, I'm pissed that I'm falling for the obvious Tumblr sexy man of the chapter.
You are supposed to be better than this!
Also, an attention whore associated with video games, overly dramatic presentations, and crippling abandonment issues. Oh my god, he's just like me for real. I have no real strong feelings on El Niño or La Niño, outside of them being a part of the funniest bit in Chapter 3, and being bummed that they essentially have the same personality. But really cool name reference though, I learned something new. Fucking terrifying. Great work. I can't wait to hit it with a truck. How did they manage to distill the energy of a murderous white woman into a reindeer so goddamn quickly? Gerson, boom, you skinny bitch! Highlight of Chapter 4. I'll get back to him later. No joke, his battle gave me a heart attack more than once and nearly made me rage quit. This was the first boss that I actually had to look up a guide for because I kept losing to him. But I can't stay mad at this goober. Look at him, he's so cute.
Get that away from me!
My biggest criticism of Chapter 3 is it didn't have as much combat as I would have liked. But the variety of gameplay more than makes up for it, especially given the benefit of hindsight. Oh. The premise of a game show is such a great excuse to put the fun game in fun outfits and play around with new one-off minigame types. The Rock Band rhythm game was my favorite. I still don't know the lyrics though to raise up your bat. And Rule's battle was such a step up from his last one, and it led to some really timeless golden moments. Once again, I hope we get to see him again. I'm going to be so sad if he doesn't show up. But unsurprisingly, the highlight was Tenna's boss battle. No questions asked, no competition. It's the first time playing either Undertale or Deltarune where I wanted to replay a boss battle immediately after beating it. And I died like 3 times to him at least. It's such a fun, high energy battle, and you can't see me, but I'm shaking. Chapter 4 though. Jesus fucking Christ. One of my favorite things a video game can do is incorporate music and sound into the gameplay. And this shit was my jam. I loved it all, no notes, bravo Toby. Actually, one quick note, good note. Every single one of these boss battles was better than the last. The Echo of Justice battle was nerve-wracking, legitimately terrifying. Jackenstein was a clever way to introduce game mechanics for the final boss, unexpectedly difficult, but immensely funny. And everything that has to do with the Titan, from the animation to the sheer devastation, made me legitimately sick. Seriously, well done. Okay, one controversial take, but hear me out. TV World is kind of average. I'm not saying that it's bad because it's not. It just feels less unique compared to all the other settings. See, the first 2 chapters of Deltarune and the 4th chapter have very distinct environments that Toby hadn't explored before in one of his games. TV World does remind me too much of Metaton segments of Hotland and the Core, which are my favorite segments in Undertale. So it's not a bad thing, but I'm not as blown away by it or incentivized to explore more. I am going to give it some grace though, because the actual set of TV World is not meant to be the main focal point. The game show sets are. The enemies are also a lot less interesting. I think there's maybe 3. Not bad, just average. Chapter 4 though! Everything about this world was tailor-made to me specifically. As someone who grew up in the church, I'm a sucker for religious aesthetics in video games, and the Dark Sanctuaries put a spin on it that I haven't encountered yet before. There's a very obvious religious elements like the stained glass, the choral music, the incense burners, and pipe organs, all par for the course. But the little details of there being a lot of water coolers, fire extinguisher NPCs, the libraries, and the very weird Halloween float stashed away in the back, that feels like my church growing up. It's the contrast of the religious opulence mixed with the very ordinary things that you'd find in a community space like the church. I haven't seen something like that before, and it was that little extra oomph that really made it it spoke to me in my corazon. And surprise, surprise, the music in these chapters was phenomenal, some of Toby's best work. Here are some of my highlights. Now I know everyone in the fandom is out here talking about freedom and controls and puppets and strings as the core themes of this game. And they're not wrong. But so many people have talked about this already that I want to talk about what I was focused on. During these last couple of chapters, I was connecting more to the themes of dealing with unwanted change and coping with the lack of control. I joked about this with Tenna, but Susie spoke to a lot of deep-seated fears I have about being left in the dark by friends and some abandonment issues I haven't fully unpacked yet. I'm not gonna get into it, but I did write up a whole long ramble about it in an earlier draft of the script, and I started tearing up. So Susie is really special to me, and I empathize a lot with her. Now, Rousey, prior to these chapters, he fell into a role that I didn't find too interesting. He was a kind-hearted healer and a source of world building. There weren't many moments where he had clear internal struggles going on like Chris or Susie. Not to say I didn't like Rousey, but he didn't have as much depth as Susie and Chris in my mind. This wasn't helped by him having a much smaller role in Chapter 2 in comparison to before. That perception of him was dismantled by the end of Chapter 3 and fucking obliterated by Chapter 4. I just did not understand how much he was protecting the other two from, and how much he was suffering for it. Deltarune's pacifist route is a lot darker than Undertale's, and in hindsight, maybe I should have realized it when Susie and Chris found the equivalent of a dead body in their pastor's desk. But holy fuck. Ow! Realizing Rousey saw himself as an object was a sad revelation, but something that fell in line with the story's stakes as I knew them. But seeing him break down in tears when admitting that he inexplicably knew the horrors of the Dark World before he met his two friends, and the soul-crushing despair of realizing that all of his efforts had done nothing to avert the prophecy, I apologized immediately for ever assuming he was evil because he was just being cagey. I am sorry, Rousey. It may sound cruel to say that I loved seeing him admit that he was scared, but I did. It effectively drove home the point that shit was so bad that even Rousey wasn't able to stay brave. And then there's Chris. Crisscross applesauce. The amount of guilt I have for taking Chris's agency away from them is immense. It didn't sink into my head during my first playthrough of chapters 1 and 2 that we could make Chris do things that they are fundamentally opposed to doing, even in non-Snowgrave routes. I knew that we were controlling them, but I didn't quite recognize where I ended and Chris began. So I decided going into chapters 3 and 4 that I would try to make decisions that felt more in line with what Chris would do and pay more attention to what actions were fully their own. And, well, Chapter 4's Light World section made that very easy. Still, it's deeply sad how the opportunities we get to see Chris be themselves are so few and fleeting. But those moments stand out and make me want to know who they are when I'm not around. Them sticking stickers on Susie's face made me audibly go, "Oh," without even realizing it. The way that they're a little too gung-ho to demolish food with Susie at any given opportunity is hilarious. And listen, I'm not a shipper, really, but the amount of times that Chris, of their own accord, reacted and responded to Susie in a way that felt like an awkward teenager trying to impress their crush was so adorable, and it pushed the needle from, I don't know, I guess it's possible they have a crush on Susie, to, oh my god, this poor kid is crushing on Susie so hard. Get up, Chris! Suzelle's adorable, and I have no issues with Susie dating Noelle. Or Susie not dating anybody, let's make that clear. But I'm a cruiser until canon tells me otherwise, and I'm running with that theory. And Show Compassion is a top contender for one of the funniest Chris moments in Deltarune. It's up there with perpetuating the cycle of existence and the feral moss eating. This kid is so fucking weird and unwell, and I want more than anything for them to be happy. But the best Chris moment was when they played the piano in the Dark World. I knew Chris liked to play the piano already, but it was special to see them play completely independently of us. And finding out about the concert for you in the holiday household damn near made me cry. I think it would be really beautiful if the final song of the game is Chris just playing the piano again. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but I think it would mean a lot if that is how the story ended. But you know what the second best Chris moment is? Toby, I swear to fucking God, if you let any of them die! These were painful chapters to play through in the best way possible. It was such a good type of pain because I knew that's what Toby intended. Unlike some bastard! Chat, are people actually mad at Sans, or am I unable to read the room? I was never a Soriel shipper, mostly because I was like one of 5 people who shipped Sans with Napstablook. Don't ask. And yes, I took issue with Toriel's actions in Undertale. Not any more than Asgore's, to be clear. And I'm still actively deconstructing years of Fan and Sans from my brain. Clearly, I was just yearning for the Great Papyrus. But Jesus Christ, even I thought some people were going a little too far in how much they hate this scene. The people who are joking about tapping into years worth of experience to take Sans out of the picture, or freaking out that Sans bamed their mom, this isn't for you. I'm specifically talking about the people who are still lost in the Fan and Sans sauce and the misogynists. Listen up, bitches. Toriel deserves happiness. Her son is in college. She's still being pursued by her ex-husband who needs to move on. Her child is clearly troubled, and her family friends are going through it. Oh, and she's a teacher and a choir member. Toriel's life is fucking stressful, so let the poor woman get drunk and dance the old jitterbug if she wants to. I don't agree with the claim that Toriel is a bad mother. But in this specific case, I do agree that she's being an irresponsible mother. It would be a completely harmless scene if Toriel was not the sole guardian of her child and said child was not crashing out with their bestie when they walked in. If this scene makes you uncomfortable, I don't blame you. It made me uncomfortable too. If my parents were drunk and partying with a weird stranger while I was trying not to have a meltdown, honestly, I'd probably be a lot more unhinged than Chris. Just gonna be completely transparent here. So it's striding this line of feel however you want to feel about this scene, just don't be a weirdo about it. For whatever faults Toriel has, what's the alternative for Chris's living situation? Living with fucking Asgore? Now listen, I love Undertale Asgore. He carries such a good presence as an imposing tragic king bereaved by the loss of his children and the departure of his wife. Somebody beholden to such an awful promise that he's lost faith in but cannot bear to turn his back on his people. And in Deltarune, he's a lot more of a pathetic, hopeless, jobless, divorcee dad that can't read the fucking room and is actually being high-key creepy about his wife. I don't love this characterization, and I don't even know if I think it's a believable outcome in a scenario where he's not a king. But I don't see these two as the same person, because these are separate games. And thus, I cope. And I bring this up because some people think that this behavior of Sans is out of character. Now listen, even if I did believe that the Undertale and Deltarune casts are the same individuals, I still wouldn't say that this is out of character for Sans. He has been a troll and a lazy bum who only gets his ass into gear for the bit or when the world is about to end since day one. Sans is not a good person. He's just a skeleton. And he's a likable skeleton with good and bad qualities. That's why we like him. I don't put it past him to troll a random edgy teenager just by existing near them. If y'all didn't want Sans to befriend our mob, then y'all shouldn't have made jokes about it because Toby likes to cause us psychic damage. We've been knowing this. I seriously cannot get over this bastard's inclusion. I cheered louder than I had for anybody else in this game when he appeared. Because this shit is good. This is what the Undertale fan in me wanted. This is how you draw parallels. For those of you who don't know, Gerson is a very minor character in Undertale, but I remember him fondly. He was the one who told us the legend of the Deltarune and a bunch of other facts about monster society, because he's been around since the war between monsters and humanity. And I think I remember him saying that he was a warrior at some point that used a hammer. That might have just been fan theory, whatever. I remember finding his grave way back in chapter 1 and feeling sad that he was gone. So when he popped up in chapter 4, I knew immediately who he was. And I was wondering how the fuck he was here. Getting to see him as an actual character who interacted with the world around him and as the Hammer of Justice, that was so fan servicey, but it was fan servicey in the way that it should be because it gave people more than what they expected. And is this the same character? No, I don't believe it is. But it does give us further context as to what Undertale Gerson might have been like while making the Deltarune version of him stand out on his own. It is so bizarre to fall back into the Undertale / Deltarune fandom after like 7 years and find whole cornucopias of inside jokes and memes that I am unfamiliar with. The only memes and theories that I knew going into this selection of chapters were Pluie and Toby apparently creating a battle that playtesters read as a cry for help. Honestly, yeah. These are some of the funnier things that I noticed in my adventures. I haven't talked about the mic fight because honestly I don't have any interest in doing the secret battles, that's why we're also not talking about that one. But I did make the connection while I was playing that the mic that Tenna was talking about and the mic that Spamtum talked about was the same mic. I just didn't realize that there were like whole fucking batshit theories about how Mike was a cat or Woody. And I didn't realize that's what the whole battle was based on. I just think that's so cool. Like, I saw it in a comment once, just like, this couldn't have happened if Deltarune had all come out at once. And I love that. I just think this is so fun. The I remember your Snowgraves meme and the friend inside of me are two jokes that I still don't have all the answers for. Not that I haven't looked them up, but I don't understand them. And I'm kind of okay keeping it that way. It kind of had some spice. This isn't a joke or a meme, but I do think it's immensely funny that I have not seen a lot of people talk about Jevil since I have not seen a lot of people talk about Jevil. Is that something that I've just missed? Are people not talking about Jevil anymore? Did Spamtum kill him? The Spam-Tenna ship is also so funny. I really like it. It's so funny. I don't think I actually ship it. I just love seeing all the things that people do about it. It's so good. Now we're getting into full speculation and theorization territory. I'm documenting my predictions. There's only a handful of them, but I want to document them because I want to just have these for record-keeping purposes. And now you guys can hold me accountable to it. I initially thought that Carol was the Roaring Knight, but then I learned that Des existed. Oh no. So yeah, I'm on board with the Roaring Knight being Des, but Carol is definitely involved somehow, and I'm just gonna take a shot here and say that she is not a villain, but she definitely has some room to grow. I genuinely don't think that this game is ever going to explicitly connect to Undertale, as in this is a midquel or this is a prequel or whatever. I know that a lot of people are, given the everything of it, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Outside of Toby literally saying that Undertale will be unaffected by Deltarune, I trust that he knows that leaving some ambiguity between the two games will help them stand better on their own. The worst case scenario for me is that Frisk is actually Chris, that they are completely subject to her whims and unable to resist, that their brother is dead and their role as his sibling is replaced by Chara, and Susie is just fucking gone. I do not want this to happen. I want these to remain separate continuities. There's also gotta be at least one reference to the 7 ice cold beers, right? I mean, he did it with Mike, so why not do it again? In conclusion, Toby! This was a game that I really needed to play this year. I had not had much success in playing fun games so far, and Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 just really, it gave me such a spark of joy that I have to give it an A, seriously. I am very optimistic for the next couple of chapters coming out. I know the next one is going to be coming out in 2026. After that, I don't know. But seriously, bravo to Toby and everybody that he worked with. This was phenomenal. It was well worth the wait, and I highly recommend that you guys check it out. It is so good. I love this game. But that's going to be it from me today. Until we meet again, go outside, touch some grass, and take it easy. This is Tiny Leaf, signing off. Now come with me, my darling.